let's go straight to the NBA playoffs, beginning with the play-in tournament. 2 games tonight, 2 games Wednesday night. We're going to go one by one through all 4 of these. Now, we should acknowledge at the top, obviously, the worst teams are now done for the season. They have gotten their, to the finish line. Many of them wanted to get to, as tanking has become a problem for this league. But that kind of leaves the model in an interesting spot. You can always find value. The model is always finding value. But some of the teams we preyed on angle-wise in NBA coverage here are no longer available for matchups to do so. If you made it to this point in the season, you're a pretty damn good basketball team. So let's just acknowledge at the top that this may not feel the same way as it has in past conversations where it's like, we're going after this team again, but we can still find plenty of angles. So let's start with Heat-Hornets, Dave, the low seed game in the East. What's the model saying here?
Pretty close overall, although it looks like the projected final score has moved just slightly in favor of the Hornets since this morning. But early model predictions have the Heat 53% probability to cover plus 5.5. Can be great value at its best odds, almost even money. There were some prediction market levels that were at in what you would consider plus money range earlier. Those look to be gone. Still getting almost even money on DraftKings at 53%, which is pretty sizable. Anything at plus money or right at it always catches my eye. With a spread, even more so when we have over a 50% probability on it. So the model certainly says that is a good look tonight. Pretty great edge, I believe, on the upset as well, barring any major changes in the odds, which is not the case. Almost 33% for the Heat to win, 2.3% edge. And then you have here on Novig, which is a prediction market. So these are converted odds, but at plus 230 worth of implied odds on there, which is pretty good. Right around fair odds at most places on traditional sports books, plus 200, plus 195. Fair price at 33% would be right on the dot, basically plus 200. So overall, pretty solid play on the Heat. You're not getting shortchanged anyway, which is nice. And then no edge to speak of, with basically a coin flip on the total. Props wise, it's really what I guess I would say EV focus, which it always is with the Dimers model. That's what it's designed to do, is find the edges. But I mean this in the sense that your most, if not all of these probabilities are under 50%. Here's your closest one, Concanable, 20.9 projected points, over 20.5, 50.9%. But a sizable edge because of these plus money odds on Fanatics, which is kind of a consistent thing across most of these games. They seem to have really good odds on there for these 4 matchups. But if you're looking strictly for value, these props are loaded with them, but you are inviting this risk of under these lower probabilities. You got here an alternate line. It looks like LaMelo over 5.5, but 40% to go over that. He's our top projected 3-point shooter in this game at 4.5. And then you'll also see some of these are so purely based on value that our projections are not going to be aligned with them because it's looking at these plus money odds. Like Con right here, only a 32% probability to go under 1.5 threes, but at substantial plus 340 odds. So you kind of have to play around with what you're looking for. You're not going to get very many 56, 57, 58% probability props for the most part in these games. Everything's just going to be a little tighter, kind of similar to what we saw in the NFL playoffs this past year. Probably something we'll see in the NHL playoffs as those probabilities get lower and things tighten up a bit. Projection wise, there are a few things in here that I think are at least worth looking at. One of those we just spoke to, which would be the 3-pointers. LaMelo is our top projected guy here at 4.5 of the entire night even. But this kind of stands out because it's also slightly higher than we had him during his really hot stretch in March and April. You can get 5+ is plus money, and then 4+ is minus 173, which is very juicy. So certainly seems favorable for him to go over 4.5. The books obviously pricing him at 4+ very, very strongly at minus 170 or so. Heat were ranked about the 6th worst out of teams remaining in the playoffs over their past 30 games against three-pointers made. So not the worst angle there. But I do think it's a notable projection that he's pretty much higher than he was in his big stretch. And then One other guy here. This was based off of a trend that I found in our NBA Trends page. Jamie Jacques Jr. Nice little heater to end the season here. 15 plus points in 7 of his last 10. 4 of those with 20 plus. Going back all the way to February, he landed on 14 twice, but then other than that, only games he went under 15 points were complete blowouts and then one bad shooting game versus Milwaukee. So his average ticked up a good bit down the stretch consistently, almost over the last month and a half. And plus 115 on Fanatics for over 12 and a half. And we've got him at 13.6. He's plus 200 or longer on most books for 15 plus, which he was doing quite consistently down the stretch. So even taking his over is probably a solid play based on the projection alone, and pretty good odds plus money. And then, if you think he can do 15, which he was doing quite consistently, not a bad play either. But that's about all that stands out projections wise. Like you said, Greg, I don't think there's anybody I'm going to ladder this guy's props to the moon in any of these matchups.
Yeah, it's always this is the, I think, conflict of being a sports bettor. A lot of times the best edges are found in the most meaningless games. And it drives me crazy as someone who loves all sports, but I just you get to the big moments of the season, you get so excited, I want to go as big as I've gone all year. I want more bets, the biggest card. And then you start actually getting into the weeds of it and you just can't force it. And that's the reality. Everybody in the play-in is good. A competitive basketball team, there's a lot of outcomes here that could happen. Yeah. So I think you laid it out nicely. I like the Jaquez angle. My personal favorite angle in this game is just Heat money line. And it sounds simple, but man, there's a history here. Eric Spoelstra in the playoffs is someone who I'm always interested in. Remember, this is a franchise that went from the play-in to the NBA Finals just a few short years ago. And if it feels like the Heat are always in the play-in, it's because they are. This is the 4th time in 6 years of the NBA play-in the Heat are here. And guess what has happened every time they've been here? They've advanced. They've never lost in the play-in and ended their season there. They make it to the round of 8 every time. And look, I think they've got, if I remember correctly, they're 4-2 because there were 2 years where they only needed to win one game to get through. And they went 1-1 in those years, but ultimately won the elimination game. Last year, they won 2 straight road games to qualify for the playoffs. Yeah. And then they got swept. There is a caliber difference at a certain point, but man, you're looking at Charlotte, who has been such a great story this year, but it's a roster full of guys that have never played in a moment like this. And I just think the Heat have the best player on the floor, and Bam Adebayo. I think they have the much better coach, and they're very familiar with moments like this. Dimer shows a 2.3% edge. It's not the biggest in the world, but it's over 2-1, man. I'm happy to just blindly bet Miami to come out victorious in this spot.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Charlotte's hot, great story. Are they about to dethrone the play-in champs? So no, I don't think so. I think that's a really good sharp angle, and I'll be on that with you as a straight for sure.
Love it. All right. How about Suns-Blazers as the second of our 4 games to preview here? 2 teams that, man, I was wondering if both of them would end up in the play-in at various points. Phoenix in general feels like a team that should always find a way to avoid this and just be firmly in the playoffs. But with how strong the West has been, I guess it's not that big of a surprise. And then Portland, this is a little bit of a step forward for a franchise that since Damian Lillard left the first time has really been stuck in no man's land. So look, it's a playoff game. Both these teams want this, but this is a matchup I certainly didn't expect. So what do you see here? What does the model see here?
Yeah, it's a interesting note on Portland too, is that they're doing this without a major superstar draw anyway. Donovan Clingan improving, with the young talent, and then getting Denny Avdija, who's completely blossomed into the best player he's been in his career here. So Toumani Camara getting their fair share of contributions, and kind of a bit of a surprise to see him here. And you, like you said, you would think the Sun should avoid this generally, given their pedigree, but here they are. Model is pretty much all Suns in this one. Only 52% probability to cover. But this is a point higher of a spread than it is on most traditional books. It's around plus 1.5. So you're getting a higher number, but then you're getting the better price at that number. So model probably has more of like a 54%, 55% probability for them to cover the traditional spread at 1.5. Money line wise, 62% for the Suns, 38% for the Blazers. Not going to find an edge on Portland there. And then the over-under, 52% to the over. This is the lowest total of the play-in, I believe, by about 4 points. And we have a very, very slim edge on the over at 1.1%. And you could play the classic little middle here with the slight edges, Blazers plus 2.5 and Suns money line. But even at the juice, the model likes the Suns. So it's feeling them pretty hard in this one. As far as the total is concerned, it is very low. Portland was 1 game over 500 to the over this season, and Phoenix had a losing record to the over. So it's just kind of a bit of a dicey spot, but obviously it's the lowest total of the 4 games. Pretty similar prop situation to Heat Hornets. Not going to find a ton of probabilities that are higher than 50%. Do have one here on Denny. And I know I did say you're not going to see a lot of 56, 57, 58% probabilities, but we do have one here. Over 6.5 total assists, 7.6 projected, plus 118 odds. Model really likes the value on him here. That's really good price too. This should be only like minus 120 or so at 56%. So that's really strong. Projections wise, there's one kind of angle that really stood out to me. Not normally the one we look at, but if you like unders, this might be one for you. Not projecting a lot of people for very many threes tonight. Blazers had like the best 3-point defense against guards this season, top 6 overall. Suns were top 4 overall and about 6th best versus guards. So barely projecting anybody on the Suns over 2. See Dylan Brooks, Colin Gillespie, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, all 2.1 or 2.3 threes. Not much higher for the Blazers, only 2.5, which obviously you round up, you get to 3, but it's just at 2.5. It's not even like 2.6, 2.7. So I'm either not touching threes or I might try to do a little combo of unders on guys, but both these teams were really sharp at defending beyond the arc, and neither of them seems to have anybody projected for success there tonight. And then just points wise, you have Denny and Devin Booker projected well above the rest. I don't know, 5-6 points for Denny over anybody else. Or no, sorry, almost 10 points higher for Denny over anyone on his team. Devin Booker, 7 points. So maybe a little 25 plus points. SGP get you around plus 170. That is one angle I will consider tonight myself.
I like it. I don't see much here personally. I think the props that you just raised are probably it for me. And I think it makes sense that in a matchup between these two teams, it's really just the stars that interest me or maybe anybody here. I think for Portland, like any world where you win this game or make a run in the playoffs, it's going to come down to like very special performances from Denny. And Devin Booker is obviously a guy with upside that has been here before on the biggest stage. This is probably the team he's been on that has asked the most of him. And we know he's a guy that rises to the occasion before. Like, there is no Brad Beal, no Kevin Durant here anymore. Like, Devin Booker, it's your time to take this team further than they went a year ago. So I kind of like that that's where you landed after sorting through the models data, because that's really about all I see here. I can see both teams winning the game, and I don't envision deep runs for either, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Not one that I want to get overly invested in. It's a fade or a stay away for the most part. Yeah.